that's good enough. That is, in fact, as a matter of law, albeit not fact, but as a matter of law, that's now a threat to the peace. And what that means is the Security Council can start dealing with the situation, can start remedying the situation, can authorize the use of force to force him out of the pink shirt and into a light blue shirt. This would be perfectly lawful. The other thing you need to note about this article is the last clause, maintain or restore international peace and security. The Security Council was seen to be the policeman in 1945. I mean, you would go to the Security Council, and the Security Council actually would have military forces. That never happened, but would have military forces, and they could send those military forces in action in the event there was insecurity in the global environment. So in Article 39, whatever the Security Council decides, whatever measures the Security Council authorizes, may only be for the purpose of maintaining international peace and security. The Security Council cannot authorize measures to punish someone unless the Security Council can articulate the connection between the action and trying to maintain peace and security. So, for example, the Security Council has authorized a tribunal to handle war crimes in the former Yugoslavia, another tribunal to handle war crimes in Rwanda. That's not technically punishment. That's the Security Council acting to maintain peace and security. The Security Council cannot retaliate for an action. So the only thing the Security Council, and we'll see it was very important in the first Gulf War, the only thing the Security Council can do is take an action or authorize an action that's designed to let things settle down so that diplomacy can do its magic. Now, that's Article 31, and what I'd like to do is, as we go through the article, show you a couple of resolutions from the first Gulf War. And the reason is the first Gulf War was the war where we actually used, Chapter 7 has our legal justification. So that was Article 39. Iraq invades Kuwait on the 2nd of August, 1990, and on that very day in New York, the Security Council meets. And the Security Council, in Resolution 660, we'll see 660 again, the Security Council says there's been a breach of the peace. In other words, there's been a use of force by Iraq's invasion of Kuwait. That's very important because what that resolution was a resolution that said, we have the stick. We're in charge now. We're taking control of this situation, and we'll be the ones authorizing action. Now, after Article 31, once the Security Council has said, listen, this is a situation which threatens peace or breaches peace or is an act of aggression, once the Security Council says that, then their next step is found in Article 41, which very importantly only authorizes non-forceful measures. So 39 says we have a situation, we're in charge. 41 says, okay, now we have to consider non-forceful measures. These may include on the PowerPoint is actually from the Charter. These are examples set forth in the Charter. The most common, economic sanctions. Okay? The most common, economic sanctions. Now, in the first Gulf War, these were tried. There was a resolution that was passed imposing economic sanctions on the Iraqis, particularly with regard to oil exports. That did not work very well. So another resolution was passed saying that we could use force in maritime operations to intercept illegal trade that the Iraqis were engaging in. That did not work very well either. But in that case, the Security Council, after taking 39 action, took several Article 41 non-forceful actions. The next, and perhaps the most important article, is Article 42. Article 42 is the use of force resolution. What Article 42 tells us is that the Security Council has determined that the Article 41 measures did not work, or alternatively, that if they try Article 41, non-forceful measures, that's not going to work. And the most common case would be a case where one state has invaded another and they want to authorize defensive operations, and it just wouldn't make sense to say, as the conflict is ongoing, let's impose economic sanctions, maybe that will work. So it basically says you have to try non-forceful measures unless The situation is such that it would be really dumb to do so. And if that happens, if the Security Council affirmatively makes that determination, then they may authorize military action. And that's non-consensual military action. As I mentioned a moment ago, the distinction between peacekeeping and peace enforcement is under Chapter 6, you need the consent of the state where the operations are ongoing. Under Chapter 7, you obviously don't need consent because you're going to use military force against the state that's in violation of the law. But again, look in Article 42 and it tells us that the only purposes are maintaining or restoring international peace and security, maintaining in a situation where you're dealing with a threat to the peace and you want to make sure something doesn't break out, or restoring in the event you're dealing with a situation in which there's already been military action and you want to get the folks to knock it off. Here's the resolution from the first Gulf War. It's a very, very famous resolution, Resolution 678. Very, not only famous, but a very interesting resolution. First, it authorizes member states who are operating with Kuwait to use all necessary means to restore international peace and security if the Iraqis don't get out of Kuwait by January 15th, 1991. Now let's look at that a little bit. First, it's authorizing member states cooperating with Kuwait. This was very, very, very unusual. Anyone know why? There was a particular reason that they came up with this language. The reason is because they did not want Israel to use force, because a coalition had been formed that included states like Syria. If you were old enough to remember the operation, the Syrians provided lots of troops in the first Gulf War. And so the Security Council was extraordinarily worried that if the Israelis became involved, this would rupture the coalition that had been formed. And so they put this text in and told the Israelis, this doesn't give you authority to do anything, which was very, very important because once the hostilities were really going, remember, the Iraqis were trying to drag the Israelis into the conflict. They were launching Scud missiles against Israel. So this was a very important political provision. The other thing that is interesting is the January 15th, 1991, there's absolutely no requirement in law to give the other side an opportunity to move back into compliance with international law. But in this case, that's exactly what happened. And in fact, the operations did not commence, I think, until January 17th, 2 days after the deadline had expired. Then you have the text, all necessary means. All necessary means is UN speak for use military force. So when you see a resolution, and in the resolution it says all necessary means, this is a green light to use military force to accomplish whatever purpose, it's called the mandate, is set forth in the Security Council resolution. In this case, it's to accomplish, or it's to implement Resolution 660. Resolution 660 said there had been a breach of the peace and you guys have to leave Kuwait. And so this is the authorization to use military force to expel, in this case, the Iraqis from Kuwait. And then finally, the Restore International Peace